Property taxes. Would you rather lose your real property for failure to pay property taxes or keep title to your property and face debtor's prison? Factual background and constitutional violations. No state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts. U.S. Constitution Article 1, Section 10. Historically, under early American legal doctrine, failure to pay property taxes could lead to debtor's prison, a personal legal remedy enforced through judicial process, not a forfeiture of deeded property. With the abolition of debtors' prisons in the 19th century, the principle was reaffirmed that property rights, secured by deed, cannot be stripped without full judicial process. In modern constitutional context, tax delinquency must result in a judicial lien, not an administrative forfeiture of title. Any deviation from this principle violates the Contracts Clause. Another lawful and constitutional method available to local governments for collecting delinquent property taxes is to condition the recording of future deed transfers upon the payment of outstanding taxes. By refusing to record or accept for filing any deed or conveyance unless tax arrears are satisfied, the municipality preserves its financial interest without impairing the existing deed contract or seizing title. This administrative hold does not cancel ownership or transfer property, but simply delays the legal effect of a new transaction until obligations are resolved. This method respects due process, avoids unconstitutional takings, and does not violate the Contracts Clause, as it does not interfere with the terms of the original deed or impair vested rights of the current owner. It serves as a lawful enforcement mechanism that preserves both revenue and constitutional protections. Additionally, the state retains its sovereign right of escheat, which allows for the reversion of property to the state only in circumstances where no owner or legal heirs can be identified. This process is rooted in the doctrine that absolute property ultimately vests in the people of the state and is exercised only after a demonstrated failure of ownership, not merely upon tax delinquency. Article 1, Section 10, the Contracts Clause, no state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts. States cannot override or interfere with private contracts, including deeds and mortgages. The clause protects landowners and creditors against arbitrary or populist government actions. Historical context: Shays Rebellion, 1786-87. Daniel Shays led thousands of farmers in protest over debt and tax foreclosures. The rebellion underscored the need for strong federal protections of property rights. In response, the framers included the Contracts Clause in the U.S. Constitution to safeguard private contracts, especially land titles, from government interference. Deeds are contracts. A deed is a contract between a grantor and grantee. When the government unilaterally cancels or transfers title through administrative tax enforcement without court oversight, it violates the contract. This is precisely what the Contracts Clause forbids. New York Constitution Article 1, Section 10, allodial title protection. All lands shall forever remain allodial. Absolute property is vested in the people of the state. The people, in their right of sovereignty, possess the original and ultimate property in and to all lands within the jurisdiction of the state. Lands the title of which shall fail, from a defect of ownership, shall revert or escheat to the people. All owners shall hold according to the nature of their respective estates, but all lands shall forever remain allodial so that feudal tenures of every description are abolished. November 6, 1962. Amendments repealed. Article 1, Sections 10, 13, and 15 and others, allegedly to remove obsolete sections. However, no compensation was provided, rendering the repeal invalid, or at most editorial, without extinguishing the underlying right. Historical affirmation from the 1894 NYS Constitution, Article 1, Section 12. All lands within this state are declared to be allodial so that, subject only to the liability to escheat, the entire and absolute property is vested in the owners, according to the nature of their respective estates. This long-standing principle affirms New York's recognition of permanent, absolute land ownership that cannot be administratively revoked. Onondaga Salt Springs Reservation and title transfers. Much of Syracuse, including petitioner's property, derives from the Onondaga Salt Springs Reservation, once controlled by New York State for salt production. In the 19th century, as salt operations declined, the state conveyed these lands to private owners through legislative and administrative acts. These conveyances included full fee, simple title, extinguishing state interest, and affirming private allodial ownership. Petitioner's title derives from these lawful transfers and retains all constitutional protections. Petitioner holds deeded title to multiple residential rental properties formerly located within the city of Syracuse. These titles originate from lawful conveyances, including those involving Salt Springs reservation lands. Petitioner never assigned, conveyed, or transferred ownership of said properties. Respondents, without court order or judicial foreclosure, transferred title to these properties to the Greater Syracuse Land Bank for alleged tax delinquency.